You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
Hi there, my name's Ace and I am the head coach of the Portuguese national team.
Hi, I'm Paulo. I am currently secretary of the Portuguese Cricket Federation, and you're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. And on the podcast, we have started a new series on the podcast looking at associate nations within cricket and how they are developing the game in their country. Many of us cricket fans know so much about the established cricketing countries and not enough on the associate nations who play cricket. So it would be nice to learn more about those associate countries, and via the podcast, people can learn more as well. For today's Associate Cricket Series episode, we are discussing all things Portugal cricket. Joining me to discuss and talk all things Portugal cricket is the head coach of the Portugal cricket team, Ace, and the secretary of Portugal cricket, Paulo Buccimazza. Ace and Paulo, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on here, guys, and I'm really fascinated to listen to what you have to say about Portugal cricket. I'm sure everyone listening and watching would be curious about Portugal and cricket. Obviously, with Portugal, you don't really associate it with cricket that much. It's more football and other sports in Europe. But cricket is certainly making a presence there, and some good work is being done. And no doubt, Ace and Paulo, you will share that as we go on through our chat today. And obviously for me, doing this Associate Cricket Series on the podcast, it's been fascinating listening to people's stories and journeys on how they go about promoting cricket in these associate countries, often with little or no money, have to do it the hard way, hard graft, but the stories and the perseverance is remarkable. So no doubt you will share that with us today as we progress through our chat today, which we're all looking forward to. So Ace and Paulo, as I do with all my guests that I've interviewed on the podcast, I like to take them back to when they first got into cricket. And it's been very fascinating listening to people's memories on how they started to get into cricket. So Ace and Paulo, let's go back to the very beginning of your cricket journeys. What were your earliest memories of watching, playing, and even going to the cricket? We'll start with you, Ace.
Oh, wow. This is going to take me back many, many years now. I suppose my earliest memories would be going back to perhaps age 10 or 11, the first time I can actually think far back enough. And that would be watching Imran Khan bowling in Gaddafi Stadium in the early 90s and just watching Test cricket there. So that's going to be probably my earliest memory. And then just from there, lots of tape ball cricket in back streets of Pakistan somewhere. And then, yeah, just as got older, a bit more university cricket in London, and a lot more club cricket in London. But yeah, I never really thought of it as taking it too seriously. Always thought of it as a hobby. And then just more recently in the last 10 years, just got involved in coaching more and more and found out that I was actually quite good at it. So that's how it kind of snowballed into something that's kind of got me to where I am right now.
Yes, definitely. Paulo, your journey, how did you get started in cricket?
Well, my earliest memory is definitely in the backyard, playing with my brother and my father. Otherwise, we used to play Baker's mini cricket and started hardball cricket. And my first memory, I'd say, at a stadium must be at Newlands, late 80s, early 90s, with the Western Province against the Orange Free State, where you had Omar Henrys and Alan Donald. And in our team, we had Adrian Caper, Kenny Jackson, those sort of guys. That's my earliest memory there. And then when I was 14, I moved across to Portugal. And there was obviously no junior cricket back then, so I just got thrown into the deep end and started playing senior cricket at a young age, early doors when I arrived in Portugal, and then went on, kept playing with the adults until obviously going to the national team set up later, and now more into a managerial role.
Yeah, definitely. If you had to describe yourselves as cricketers in your youth, what would you describe yourselves as cricketers when you were growing up playing the game? Were you average, good, or just having fun, really, and not worrying about the other stuff?
I can go. I played a good standard of cricket at university. Captained the University of London. Played a bit of stuff against some county twos here and there. So good enough to play, but was just always just academically inclined. My father played for Pakistan A. He was on the verge of the Test squad as a second keeper. So always had cricket in the family. But I think my father realised that cricket was going to occupy a lot of time, and sort of wanted to push us more towards education. And lo and behold, I ended up coaching cricket for a career. So that didn't work.
Yes. Paulo, yourself, how would you describe yourself as a cricketer when you were going through the ranks?
Played at a decent level, I'd say, decent standards. Probably played for the likes of MC Young cricketers, had a little stint there, So that was a good experience. Get you exposed to even the higher level of guys when you're net bowling during test matches and that sort of thing, which was lovely. But yeah, I'd say decent level. Not very high, but decent.
Yeah, and obviously you still keep in touch with those that you've played club cricket or back in the day, and obviously that's what cricket does. It forms these friendships and bonds over time. So you keep in touch every now and again and reminisce about the old times when playing cricket together.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I'm now coach at my club in London, Ealing CC, who are in the Middlesex Premier League. So coaching there now. So good to see some of the guys I grew up with have now obviously moved on to higher managerial roles, but it's good to see all the youngsters come through, and just being more of a mentor and coach for those guys. So just that circle of cricket, always kind of putting back into the game is where we're at now. So enjoying this part of this phase of cricket in our lives, I guess.
Yeah, and Paulo?
Yeah, likewise. Like most of the guys that I played with are also putting back into the game. So a lot of them are umpiring now or helping out scoring or coaching. And we see each other quite often because of that. And yeah, it's always good to catch up.
Yes, definitely. It's such a wonderful game, cricket. These memories and obviously helping and giving back, and that's what you're doing, Ace and Paulo, with Portugal, and looking to, pass on your knowledge and experience to others and promote a game in a country that isn't well known, and to make it stronger and better, and hopefully compete on the world stage, which many associate countries are looking to do around the world. Across different regions of the world, but also it was good to hear your memories and thoughts on cricket and how you got into it, your journey. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's always fascinating listening to different people's introductions and journey in cricket. Everyone's different and makes it unique. So thanks for sharing that with us, Ace and Paulo. Ace and Paulo, I thought to start this interview on Portugal cricket, let's talk about the history of cricket in Portugal. You can learn a lot about cricket from its history, and the history of cricket in Portugal is quite interesting. So, Paulo, give us a brief overview on the history of cricket in Portugal. Bit of a history lesson for those listening.
Sure. Well, it goes back quite a while. It goes back to 1861, when the British troops used to play a game against each other, just between Lisbon and Porto. That fixture's been going on almost annually since then, and it got named the Kendall Cup in 1920. And that continues to be played until today. We played last year up in Porto, and this year the return fixture will be back down in Lisbon. So that's our oldest fixture. More league cricket, I would say, since I've been here, I can know a bit more, which was mid-90s. It was very basic. We had 4 or 5 teams, depending on the year. We used to play on a shell outfield. We'd roll a mat out, a few stones under there, so it always made it a bit fun. And then I'd say since in 2007, we moved to another ground. At least we've got a grass outfield and a proper mat to play on. It's not grass wickets, but it's matting. And since 2021, I'd say there's been a big growth in the game in Portugal. We were at 6 or 7 teams, then we went to 14, then 20, and this year we're up to 28, 29 teams playing in our league. So it's growing quickly at the moment amongst the senior community.
How many players in that, Paulo, now? How do we have on the database?
Not at the moment. I'd say you're around about 700, 800 players at the moment. Just playing league cricket.
Yeah. No, that's very good to hear, Paulo. So thanks for giving us that brief history lesson on how the game was introduced and became a thing really in Portugal. And it's very fascinating listening to. And
also, sorry to interrupt you there. We've also just started women's cricket last year only. We started a couple of years ago, but we only had our national team going last year. And that's also had a bit of a boom with the girls. Obviously, not as much as the men at the moment, but it's growing, and we're trying to get more fixtures for the ladies currently.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And once again, thanks for that, Paulo, on sharing your thoughts on the history of cricket in Portugal, and obviously how it became a thing, and obviously how it's developed into what it is today. And I'm sure everyone would like to do their own research when listening to this episode and would be hoping to learn more about cricket in Portugal and saying, oh, they didn't know that. And that's quite interesting. So it's very interesting when you look back on these things and how cricket was introduced to different parts of the world, really. So once again, thanks for that, Paulo, on that brief history lesson there. Ace and Paulo, let's talk about the Portugal national cricket teams, the women's and the men's teams. It would be good to gain your insights on the two teams and learn more about their achievements, the players' stories, because many of the players come from diverse backgrounds, as it often is the case in associate cricket. So Ace and Paulo, for those who may not know a lot about the Portugal women's and men's teams, can you tell us more about them, the players, and some of the stories? We'll start with you, Ace.
Yeah, sure. So I can cover the men's team and Paulo perhaps more on the women's side because he's a bit more connected to that side. But look, the men's team have been going strong now for the last 3, 4, 5 years even. And a lot of it initially was based on the local players from the leagues who have come in and done a fantastic job in getting us up to, I think the highest ranking position we had was about 38th in the world at some stage. And got us into a good place. Most of those guys are people who have migrated to Portugal from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, South Africa, of all places, and got cricket moving in the right direction. So we've done well as a nation historically, and like I say, our rankings have been quite decent. More recently, we've had a lot more growth in terms of people reaching out to us and saying, listen, I hold a Portuguese passport. I'm initially from Goa in India, or from Macau in Hong Kong, or Australia or New Zealand or South Africa. So we've got a lot of coverage from around the world, and a lot of players who are Portuguese passport holders who have played a decent level of cricket at a high level, and wanting to either reignite or get their careers back on track by getting a push via the Associate Nation route, which is just kind of growing more and more, getting more mainstream more recently, a bit more coverage in T20 World Cup. So I think people are seeing that as a way to grow themselves as players, and it's great for us as well, right? We've just seen the Italian story where they've kind of pulled together a few players from other cricketing nations in terms of guys who hold Italian passports or Italian heritage, and that's been really good for them, right? To kind of have that dream story of the underdog who kind of comes from behind and grows, and suddenly they're on the World Cup stage. So we're in a position now where we've got some players of that caliber, and yeah, we're trying to sort of push ourselves forward and get that moving. So yeah, look, there's a few players who are going to be joining our ranks soon that we're quite excited about, and each one has their own story, right? We've had, just in our recent series, the man of the series was a guy who's on the fringe of Ireland, but again, Portuguese passport holder, very proud Portuguese player, and just wants to kind of do as much as he can while he's able to for us. So just fascinating. I think there's been so many individual stories, and we could go into each and every single one of them, and each one of them will be just about guys who are very proudly Portuguese, and just want to do well for the country.
Yeah, definitely. Paulo, the women's team, obviously, they've only just started playing international cricket recently, but it's been in the works for some time. Tell us more about the women's team, obviously, and getting women into the game, which is important across the world of cricket, but in Portugal, to get young girls and women playing cricket and performing at the highest level.
Sure. It's all very recent, obviously. As you said, they played their first series ever last year against Norway and actually won that series 2-1, which was an amazing achievement. Like the men's team, we do have a couple of, not as many, but we have a couple of girls who are living abroad, have a Portuguese passport, which does help because our local girls don't have much experience because they don't play that as often, should I say, which we're trying to improve on, because most clubs that have women don't have enough to get a whole team together. So what we normally do is try join them all together on a day and do a practice session and then play a game and just split them into teams, as we don't have enough for a 6 or 7, clubs league to say, So it's just a way to get them to play more cricket, improve their skills. We're also very blessed in having like our captain. She's played for England in the past. We got 3 players playing Middlesex Premier League in the UK and a couple in South Africa playing first-class cricket there. So that does help, obviously, boost and help the locals immensely.
Yes, absolutely, which is fantastic. Obviously, seeing those numbers increase as you get more and more into the program and develop that over the years. Now, Ace, obviously, you're the coach of the men's team. You haven't been in the post for long, but obviously, being a head coach of a country in cricket must be a surreal feeling, first of all, but it must be a very proud moment for yourself, and obviously wanting to help a country improve and get better, but also perform at the highest level, which Portugal is on that journey. So talk us through that experience of being a head coach, but also dealing with the challenges that come in associate cricket and obviously trying to get a team mentally and physically prepared to perform.
Yeah, look, it's been a surreal 18 months for me. So, I mean, I accidentally got the role through a friend of mine who was in the national team and said, listen, we kind of need a coach who can kind of come on board and help to bridge some gaps that we've got in the team, connection-wise or communication-wise or however-wise. So my first tour was in Romania in a T10 series. And after my first day, I was like, what have I got myself into? This is associate cricket, and this is crazy, right? This is not what I expected it to be. So that was a bit of a throwback. But then thereafter, I kind of got more and more into the role as we got better players into the system. We began to build a bit of a culture. We had a session with a sports psychologist to kind of get everyone on the same page as to what we wanted to achieve as a nation, which was really helpful to kind of have that vision statement in place. And then from there onwards, we've kind of been on this journey of not so much about the skill, but more about the culture of the team itself. So what do we want to kind of be seen as a nation? So, like I said, we've got enough players to kind of bring in a high skill set of players, and they will perform at that level. And I think in our last 15 games, we've won 12 and lost 3. So results take care of themselves. But for us, it's more about just being the culture that we have on the pitch, off the pitch, making sure that's all in sync. Everyone's there for each other, which wasn't there initially when I joined. But I think that's become more and more apparent now that we are one tight unit. So that's been the most satisfying part of this whole coaching journey for me so far. And then, like you said, in associate cricket, you're not just confined to your coaching role. As far as Paulo knows this as well, he's secretary of the federation, but our roles kind of become, they change based on what day it is. So we will start to become, right, we need to sort our social media out. So let's kind of start working on social media. We need to relaunch our website. So let's kind of build a new website. We need to become the groundsman. We need to become, start a YouTube channel. We need to start a GoFundMe page, which we've just done. And you know, we kicked that project off in December, was it? And we were fortunate enough to sort of raise, I think, €8,000 for the tour that we just had, which is, you know, more than half our budget for that tour. So it's kind of, our roles change day to day, which we understand is going to be part of being connected to an associate country. But, you know, again, because we're so passionate about it, having this whole storytelling opportunity, I think it's just something that we're very passionate about seeing through to the end, and making sure that we're able to sit here at the end of our careers, or when we're in the twilight of our careers, and say, you know, actually, we got Portugal from position A to position B, and whatever that journey is, just being proud to be a part of it and saying, yeah, we did our bit and got us to a better position.
Yeah, definitely. Paulo, would you like to add on to what Asa said there?
Yeah, sure. It's as he says, you know, it depends on the day. It depends on your role. You know, one day you're cutting grass, one day you're setting up a camera for a stream, one day you're scoring. You know, so one day you're umpiring. So that's you got to be flexible in our roles, considering obviously we don't have a budget to employ 30, 40 people and have everything. Everyone has their own role, and everything's hunky dory. So. As I said, we just have to adapt and understand the position we're in, and we have to make sacrifices for it to get to that next level. And I think that's what we're both doing at the moment.
Yes.
And one day you're on the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, we're promoting you. That's what my
exactly
objective is, Ace, and
I'll go fund
to promote these associate countries, because you do so wonderful work. And I'm a part of Emerging Cricket myself. I'm part of the team there as a contributor. I'm sure you've heard of Emerging Cricket promoting associate cricket around the world. So it's important to listen to people involved and make cricket fans realize that's a lot of things that go behind the scenes when you're running an associate country. Unlike other countries like Australia or England or India, where things are a bit easier in terms of money and financial situations and all that stuff. But you need to wear so many different hats on a day-to-day basis, as we've talked about. Now, in terms of expectations and that, Ace, obviously as a coach, you know, you have expectations and you want the team to achieve this and that, and tournaments. And now with the T20 World Cup expanded to 20 teams, and we recently saw in India and Sri Lanka this year, we saw the associate countries perform well there, Italy, the big story from there, Nepal, and other countries performing in the tournament at certain points. Is that a goal one day for the national team, Ace, to hopefully, and obviously for your side of things as well, Paulo, for the team, you know, to eventually qualify for a T20 World Cup or even do well at the qualifiers, because it can be a very cutthroat tournament, as many have said in those associate tournaments when you're qualifying for World Cups. But from your point of view, Ace, you know, is that a bridge too far, or do you want to live in the present and let's just try and build consistency and then think about that when we come to it in terms of qualifying for tournaments and seeing if we can match it against other teams who are ranked higher than us in the world?
No, I think it's a good question. I mean, look, we're quite clear about how we want to go about our cricket. And our thing that we have in Portugal is excellence everywhere, from the grassroots up to on the pitch, up to off the pitch. Whatever we do, we want to have excellence everywhere. So that's been our theme and our kind of and our motto for the time being. So we're quite ambitious in the sense that we want to see ourselves as the top ranked European team outside of Holland, Netherlands, Ireland, and Scotland, and England, of course. But once you get past those big nations, we want to be the highest ranked European team. So there's probably a Germany, a Jersey, a Guernsey, a Spain above us right now. But we're about 5th or 6th in that small list. So our goal is quite clear to sort of be that top ranked European side. And I think with the players that we have available to ourselves, we have World Cup qualifiers coming up in August. If we do well in that, we should be able to get ourselves on a bit of a wave and try and, you know, our goal is to be at the 2028 World Cup finals. So if you do see us there, don't be surprised. We've got the players, we've got the setup in place now to kind of do really well as a nation. Obviously, yeah, we're trying to sort of work more on sponsorships. You know, all of these things, getting our players in from halfway across the world costs us more than our annual budget. For example, we've got a player who's reached out to us from Australia who wants to play for us. We've got a couple of guys playing first-class cricket in New Zealand who want to play for us. We've got a guy playing Ranji Trophy who wants to play for us. We've got guys playing county cricket in England right now for Northants, for Middlesex, who want to play for us. So that's all well and good. We just haven't got the budget for it to kind of fly them all in, because we'll probably blow our annual budget in one go. But we're working on those bits and pieces to make sure we can puzzle it all together. But I think realistically, with the squad of players that we've got, with the culture we've built, with the passion that we have in terms of myself, Paulo, other people like Assad and our president Akbar, who are really supportive of everything we're doing, we should be in a position actually to really push for that top tier and replicate Italy. You know, that's been for us like a dream story to kind of sort of look back and emulate. So we're quite quietly confident that we can replicate that, and don't be surprised if you see us in 2028.
Yes, no, I think a lot of people were surprised to see Italy in this T20 World Cup this year in India and Sri Lanka, but they put up a good fight. They won a game against Nepal, and they were competitive against England, and struggled against the West Indies, but they managed to do okay in their first T20 World Cup. So you've heard it here first, everyone, from Ace. Portugal cricket, 2028 T20 World Cup, potentially. Let's hope that is the case. So, Paulo, in terms of the youth development, obviously under 19s and all that stuff, is there processes and systems in place to develop that and make sure we get the youth playing these tournaments and obviously building them up towards the national team eventually in both either women's and men's cricket?
At the moment, with the youth, we've got a under 15, under 19 league running this year. We don't have the numbers we would like to have, to be honest. It's very difficult to get into the government schools here. You knock on a lot of doors and nothing opens. Don't even unlock sometimes. Just as here it is. So we've got a limited number, and we're doing very well with the limited number we have. They play quite often, I'd say. And the idea is to get on those players in the next year will be to get an under 19 squad together to represent Portugal. Obviously, budget will be a big issue there, but we think we can make it happen with the budget we have for the youth cricket. There are enough players now for that to happen that qualify. So we are definitely looking to get that up and running sometime this year or early next year.
Yeah, definitely. Though that's good to hear. It's so important to get that development into the younger players and the youth in those pathways, which is very important. Now, in terms of what's on the agenda for both teams in 2026, obviously we're only 4 months into the year of 2026. So hopefully a lot of cricket, I'm guessing, but we'll find that out in a moment from both of you, Ace and Paulo. We'll start with the women's team. Paulo, what's on the agenda for them in 2026? Tournaments and series. Talk us through that.
So at the moment, we've got the MCC Foundation are coming to Porto on the 23rd, 4th, 5th of August with another team from the UK. Our ladies team will be playing in that. And our idea we're working on at the moment is to get another national team to join. And after they play against the MCC Foundation, we could have a bilateral series against another nation. We have spoken to a couple already, just waiting for confirmations before I can put names out there. And that's, I reckon that's budget-wise is what we're going to manage for the year. If things go well on the GoFundMe side of things, we will try and get another bilateral series for the girls as well.
Yeah, definitely. So that's good to hear, Paulo, there for the women's team. What about the men's team, Ace? What's on the program for them for the rest of 2026? Series and tournaments?
Yeah, look, quite a bit. We're being quite ambitious this year. So if we look back at our last 3 years, we've played 20 T20 internationals. If we look at this year alone, we're going to try and play 21. So quite a big jump, and that's again just recognizing that we've actually got a squad now that can actually compete at a higher level. So we want to try and throw ourselves in the deep end and test the waters a bit more. So we've just finished a tri-series against Norway and France, where we played 7 games. One was rained off. We won the other 5. One we lost in the last over, on the last ball even. So ups and downs, I guess, there and then. But we've improved our rankings from 44 to 40th in that one series. We've got a couple more series lined up in June, July. One against Finland, for sure. And we're just trying to work out logistics-wise the best way to travel and get to the most feasible way of doing another series on that trip. Again, flying people in from halfway across the world to play for 2-3 days doesn't really work for us. So we've got to make sure we kind of maximize our output from every time we book flights and hotels. So we've got another series or 2 planned June, July. We potentially got a series against Netherlands A and a training camp there as well. So they've been kind enough to invite us over to say, listen, come over, do some training, play our A team. And I think they need some preparation work as well. So recognizing that Portugal will give them good stern competition is quite nice to know. And then in August, we have World Cup qualifiers in Finland again. So that's going to be our year. It's quite full on, but like I say, we're kind of being quite ambitious here and setting our stall out early and looking to improve our ranking another 5 positions by the end of the year. So hopefully, if we are top 35, then that gives us a bit more funding from the ICC as well. Just how these scorecards work in terms of, as Paulo mentioned, having under 19 cricket in the country, having a schools program, having women's cricket, having a men's team that's in the top 35, all of these bits and pieces trigger more income streams for us, which kind of helps us out long term. So we've got to hedge our bets. And look, we're kind of confident about what we can do. Yeah,
definitely. Well, it's very encouraging to hear that there is some cricket on the agenda for both teams. And obviously, the more cricket you play, the more better you will be. So that's the main thing. But that's often the challenge for associate cricket, is about playing games and series and being consistent in that. And obviously, that can be a challenge for many countries. But it's good to hear that both the women's and the men's team will have some cricket this year, and hopefully looking to improve.
Yeah, and I think the women's team need to play 5 games this year in order to get ICC ranking points.
Correct.
At the moment, they've played 1 series so far, but to constitute rankings, they need to play 5 more games. So once that's done, again, that's another feather in the cap for Portugal cricket. So looking forward to that as well.
Yes, definitely. And it's really encouraging to hear that, as I said, cricket will be happening this year for Portugal. And no doubt everyone watching or listening to this episode will be hoping to catch the teams in action and waving their Portuguese flags, if you have some Portuguese background, cheering the team on and hoping they can do well this year. But very good to hear your insights, Ace and Paulo, on the national teams, the women's and the men's. It's some good stuff is happening there, and hopefully that can continue throughout 2026 and beyond. and hopefully both teams can feature in some tournaments as we progress throughout the years, and hopefully be a feature in T20 World Cups or other tournaments in cricket. But once again, thanks for sharing that with us, Ace and Paulo, on the Portugal national teams, women's and men's. Good to see that they're doing well, and hopefully they can improve and get better as the years progress. Ace and Paulo, I thought we talk about the growth and development of cricket within Portugal in terms of getting cricket into local communities, clubs, schools, grassroots, etc. This is one of the challenges that many associate nations have, is how they grow and develop cricket and promote it and introduce it to a country that is not too familiar with the sport, and have all these various challenges that they need to face head on. And I suppose in your role, Paulo, as the secretary, you're sitting in your chair in your office, scratching your head and saying, how can we get these things across the community? It's a luxury in other countries like Australia, for example, where it's a lot easier with financial benefits and all that stuff. But in associate countries, you're often working on shoestring budgets. And it's often difficult to try and roll out programs and make it accessible for everyone in the country. So, Paulo, what challenges does Portugal cricket have in trying to grow and develop cricket in the Portuguese community? And do you see cricket becoming a mainstream sport in Portugal anytime soon? So your thoughts on that?
Sure. What we do with the school systems, we knock on as many doors as we can. Those normally don't work, to be honest with you. The ones that do work are the ones that reach out to us. We've had quite a few instances of schools reaching out to us. Some of them work well, some not so well. So we normally go there, we'll do a demonstration of cricket, have a couple of hundred kids involved, all try the sport out. Then we normally will supply them with a coach for a few sessions if they want to continue. And then obviously what we want is for them to take over. We'll provide the coach education for them, and they need to try and find obviously their own coaches, because we as a federation obviously can't afford to pay the coaches from all the schools, if you know what I'm saying. So the idea is to get the PE teachers, the parents upskilled so that they can run the sessions in those schools to continue the cricket in that school. So I'd say it's probably like 1 in 10 that we go to end up actually continuing with the cricket. Some of them, it just ends up being a day and an experience. So that's where we're at the moment. Will it improve quickly? It will improve, definitely. Will it be mainstream anytime soon? I highly doubt it. A very football-dominating country. It'll be nice to have more schools and for it to grow, but mainstream, I don't think so for now.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, Ronaldo is from Portugal, isn't he? Big football star. So everyone worships him.
Unless he
plays Ronaldo. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge, obviously. He's a national hero. Yeah. But, many challenges there. But, trying to navigate through them as the best possible way you can. Now, in terms of the domestic system, clubs and communities, talk us through about how that is structured and how many clubs and local communities have their own cricket club in Portugal. So talk us through about the club domestic system and how that's operating there.
Sure. So what we have in place at the moment is we'll have 2 divisions in the Lisbon area, and we have another league up north, which has only 4 teams in it. And the winner of that division will come and play a playoff to see if they can make finals day against our Division 1. We have currently 8 teams in Division 1 and 14, 15 in Division 2. So if we add that all up, that's 27, 28 teams, something around there. That's the way it's structured at the moment. Obviously, there's a promotion relegation, so the clubs have something to fight for. The only thing we do find at the moment, we do see a bit of a gap, I'd say, between our Premier League and the second tier, which we are trying to get that gap closed as much as possible, But it's good that we have some very good competitive cricket in our first division, some good players.
Yes, definitely, and it's good to see that is growing and developing. Amongst the community,
5 years there, we are 6-7 teams.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
And that's a good feeder for the national team as well, right, Paulo? Having a strong Premier Division. As long as you've got 5 or 6 or 7 good teams in that Premier League, then you're always kind of providing us with players who are able to play the national team, and then they kind of come in and join those other pros who are playing the national stuff, and then help to bridge that gap. And hopefully it all ties up nicely.
100%, because that's also obviously if you have that smaller group in there, they competing against good players, so you can look at their stats realistically, so it helps Ace out. But if they're playing against guys in Division 2 and scoring 200s for fun, that's not really a good reflection for Ace of what level the cricketers are at.
And also just kind of adding to that as well, it's good to have, we're kind of going a two-prong attached here, where Paulo's obviously doing a lot of work on the shop floor, where he's developing players from the under-15s, 19s, domestic leagues. And then in the meantime, we're trying to sort of get our flagship teams, our men's and women's teams on the world stage. So hopefully that then sort of becomes a bit of a flag for everyone to sort of look up to as well. So, look, our national team is actually doing really well. So actually those younger generations are a bit more inspired to say, actually, I want to play some cricket. So hopefully that kind of does help in promoting the game internally. So hopefully it all ties up one day.
Definitely. No, that's very true. Do you see that people, when they first play cricket, they're very enthusiastic, they want to learn more about the game and say, oh, this is quite unique and weird? Paulo, do you sense that amongst people who are coming into the game for the first time? They're really wanting to play more and more of it?
It depends on each kid's background. Like roller hockey is quite big in Portugal. And I find the roller hockey kids actually with the batting enjoy it a lot, because they've got that hand-eye ball coordination, and they're actually very good straight off the bat. No pun intended there, but they actually are quite talented. Obviously, the people who normally just play football and whatever, not quite their scene. And obviously, we try to keep when I'm doing it with the kids, we try to keep it like continuous cricket, something, keep them involved, because they're used to football, which is sort of non-stop, where cricket's maybe a bit a slower game at a stage for them. But that's why we try to keep them as involved as much as possible, because their concentration will just go somewhere else otherwise.
Yeah, I suppose that's just the modern world, really, with technology. Really, everyone has short attention spans, and obviously T20 cricket's perfect for that, as we've seen, despite people having different opinions about it. But in the associate world, it works very well because it's quite convenient time-wise. And also cricket in the Olympics now as well, which we'll see in a couple of years from now in LA, and then obviously in Brisbane in 2032 after that, obviously. Has that been good, beneficial in terms of funding? Because Olympic bodies and committees and funding sports that are in the Olympic program, has that been the case for Portugal, Paulo, in terms of that funding?
We're talking with them at the moment, but there hasn't been anything come out of it yet. So at the moment, no, but possibly yes. Hopefully yes, should I say.
Yes, yeah, that should be a very beneficial thing to happen, obviously, and we've seen that across the other associate countries as well. Now, I've asked this to all the guests that I've had, Ace and Paulo, whenever we talk about this in the associate cricket series on the podcast. It's about the relationship with the ICC. Now, some people have different relationships with the regional bodies and they've said they've been very good, or they could improve in this aspect or anything like that. So what's been the relationship with the ICC in terms of them trying to help out and you asking them questions, or they're trying to provide some advice? Because many people have different opinions about how the ICC run cricket, but what's been the relationship like with them?
Yeah, we've had a very good relationship with the ICC over the years. We're very quiet, should I say. We don't communicate much with them. We could do that better. They do every question we ask. They reply immediately. They're very good with that. They're helpful. They help a lot, especially with the learning systems for coaches, for umpiring, to develop all our local, and they've helped us with providing local tutors so that we can run all these courses in our in-house. We don't have to spend money in flying people in doing so. To be fair, the funding over the years has increased. If it's going to continue like that, we don't know. But those are all positive signs from our view of the ICC at the moment.
Yeah. Ace, anything you'd like to add on to what Paulo said there?
No, I mean, I know recently there was a conference in, I want to say, Finland. Was it Finland?
Estonia.
Yeah, Estonia, sorry. And Assad attended that, so maybe we can get some feedback from him and relay it on. But from what I've heard from him, all very good. Everyone's quite positive about Portugal, so I don't have anything to add on that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, that's very good. In terms of the requirements that the ICC set for associate countries, do you think they're reasonable, or do you think they're unattainable in some cases? Some countries do struggle with trying to fill the whole criteria. Or do you think it's necessary to ensure that associate countries are well prepared for what's to come of becoming a cricketing country?
What criteria are you referring to?
Requirements.
The different requirements and criteria that they set out for countries in the associate world
to become an associate member,
targets and all that stuff. Yeah.
Listen, they're there. It is what it is. There's realistic. Some countries will struggle a lot. Some won't struggle as much. Just depends. It's a country to country base, I think, to be honest, how realistic those goals are, if you know what I'm saying. Because if you look at small country and they say you have to have X number of grounds, in such a small country, do you really need that number of grounds? But maybe in Germany, where it's a big country, you need 3 times what are they asking for, So I think it's all relative to each country and how each country will see them, to be honest.
Yeah. Anything you would like to add on to that, Ace?
Yeah, I know there's a dashboard matrix that kind of almost we need to address every single point on there to kind of trigger funding and get more funding available to it. But I mean, again, it's one of those that how much time does each person have to be able to kind of go through each bit, and then a lot of it is doable but requires a lot of man hours. And like myself, Paulo, Assad, and the Federation, they obviously do their bits and pieces, but there comes a point where there's only so much you can do, and it would be nice to have more help available to do these things, and maybe even just more ICC involvement, like just having regular visits and saying, listen, what can we help with, if anything. So it would be nice to have that, but like at this stage we kind of know what's required of us, and we're doing our best to make sure that we are speaking to potential sponsors, trying to work out how to get some of those quick wins with the low-hanging fruit. So if we can kind of tick some of those boxes off, get those things done, then hopefully that helps us to push forward in following years.
Yes, definitely, absolutely. Now, in terms of facilities, in terms of pitches and stadiums and grounds and all that, which are very important to host games, in terms of that, Paulo, how's that been tracking in terms of getting grounds up to international standard, really, or hybrid have been sort of a thing, really, that associate countries have been using in terms of trying to
it's
prepare
tough.
pitches and all that stuff. So how's that been going in terms of getting facilities up to standard and trying to get them established in the country?
It's difficult, we've got at the moment 3 grounds. We're trying at the moment in the Algarve to get a pitch laid there, hopefully, to have an extra ground, because they've got juniors down there but no ground. And also they could start a Southern League as well, which would be nice to help our national league grow. It's difficult because pricing, number one. If you try find something, so your best opportunity is to find, being in Portugal, there's 2 football fields next to each other. Find a club that doesn't use it that much and say, can we lay a pitch in between, but grass wickets and all that sort of thing, it's not feasible here at the moment. So I think it's a struggle across Europe, really. Some countries are more blessed than others in that aspect, but it's a tough one unless you get a already established place and get a pitch in. The money involved is crazy, so it's very difficult at the moment.
Yes, that can often be a challenge there. Ace, anything you would like to add to what Paulo said on that in terms of?
No, look, I mean, I've seen Porto, I've seen our ground in Santarém, which is, for what they are, European cricket stadiums, they are both phenomenally well looked after. And like I say, until we get to a higher standard of cricket available to ourselves, will be, like I say, grass wickets would be nice to have, but at the moment it's all played on Astro. But it is what it is. We're not going to, sit here and degrade any of it. I think it's one of those that we're working hard on making sure that we keep on building. Like I say, a few sponsors that come in will help us massively. So for now, we've got some nice stadiums to play cricket on, and just had a fantastic series held in Santarém. So all good.
Yeah, definitely. And also, we forgot to mention European Cricket League as well, which is doing good stuff in Europe in terms of promoting cricket there. We've seen some funny moments on there when you watch this videos, are quite hilarious. It's all in good fun. Has that been beneficial to Portugal in terms of, people coming across the game and across Europe and seeing Portugal and saying,
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Since that European Cricket League started, we hosted one here in 21, if I'm not wrong. And since that's happened, the growth of our league and whatever gave us exposure more than, which we didn't have before. All of a sudden the games are on YouTube. People can see them. Oh, there is cricket in Portugal, And then they had the ECL, the Portuguese club there. They had the ECC. There was the national team there. So it gave us a lot of exposure. And along with that exposure also gave us some financial help when they hosted the events here. So I think it was a win-win, to be honest. So it was very good. It was very good.
Yeah, it's been great, and like even recently, like I think earlier this month, we had the ECS, a European Cricket Series, held in Portugal just before our international series, and that was well covered by the European Cricket Network. And I know Daniel Weston's like a massive supporter of everything we do as well. So looking forward to those guys getting back on their feet to full capacity, because like I say, they were a massive help to growing Portugal cricket. And really, really supportive of everything that we do.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been a positive thing for Europe as well as a whole. And I think there's a new T20 franchise competition in Europe happening in the near future. There's plenty of positives there. So it's good to see that finally it's growing and developing across the continent, cricket, which is fantastic. Before we move on, one more thing to ask. In terms of the growth and development going into the future and the years beyond, are you optimistic that it will continue to keep chipping away every year and trying to convince people to play cricket? So your thoughts on that, Paulo? Are you optimistic about the future?
I honestly do. I do think in the last 5 years, it's just grown and grown year by year. So I don't. Obviously, they'll get to a stage where it'll plateau, but for now, I think it will keep growing for a while. How long, I don't know. And they'll be great for us, especially with the junior. The junior, I see the numbers increasing year by year. The league numbers are increasing year by year. Some of those juniors are now playing in the league as well. So there's definitely a pathway for them now. Some of our players from Division 1 are playing in the national team. So there's a definite pathway. And with that set, I do believe that it will keep growing, because there is an objective at the end of there's something at the end of the line.
Yeah, definitely. Ace, are you optimistic about the future growth and development of the game in Portugal?
100%. I mean, like Paulo just mentioned, we've kind of got everything from grassroots all the way up to league cricket running successfully now. We also last year had a few Portugal A-team series, so that was like almost feeding into the national team. And then the national team itself, we've got a lot of guys now who are very, very passionate about the game, about Portugal. Women's cricket's taking off as well, so I think we're just only going to get bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. And like I say, we're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes now to kind of make sure that our shop window displays all of the work we're doing. Like I said, we've launched a new website, we've got our social media up and running now, so if you guys helping out with that stuff, so wherever we are finding more and more support from, it just gives us more and more arms, and we're getting more and more stuff done. So yeah, look, we're really excited right now. We've had a good last 12 months if we look at it, and the next 12 months are super exciting for us, the next 6 months especially. So yeah, no doubt Portugal team to watch.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And it was very interesting hearing your thoughts on the growth and development side of things of the game in Portugal. Ace and Paulo, some positives there, but challenges, as is often the case in associate cricket, but managing to get through those challenges and hoping the hard work can be rewarded in the future in terms of future players, and just really developing and growing the game in Portugal for everyone to love, really. That's why we love cricket. So it's very encouraging to hear that. And hopefully long may it continue in the years to come.
Thank you.
Now, Ace and Paulo, we've finally reached the last topic of our discussion. I've enjoyed it immensely, but we've got one more delivery to face in the over before we pull up stumps for the day, to say that. But let's talk about what the future holds for cricket in Portugal. It's very hard to predict the future, as we know, because you don't know what's going to happen. But Ace and Paulo, how do you see Portugal cricket and associate cricket going into the future? So we'll start with you, Ace. How do you see the future of Portugal cricket and associate cricket in your perspective?
I mean, look, I just mentioned that we think it's going to be, given all the trajectory so far of the last 2 years, 1 year, things are on the up. So we're optimistic things are going to continue that way. You briefly mentioned some franchise leagues launching in Europe, so that's also going to be something that we're looking at closely as well. So watch this space for more news on that. And look, yeah, I think we're in a good position in terms of all those things that build up our ICC dashboard. We're tackling each and everything on there, and just making sure that, like I say, we're addressing as many things as we possibly can with the resources we have. So we've got a good team around us, a lot of support from our federation, giving us almost free hand to push things forward in the country. They're really supportive of growth. And yeah, look, we're in a good place, I think. So very optimistic. We're going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Paulo, your thoughts on the future of Portugal cricket and associate cricket going forward?
My thoughts are, what I see is obviously in the next few years, our junior and women's sections growing immensely. It's what I'd like to see for sure. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll see a big difference to what it is at the moment. That's on the local stuff. I think that's what I see happening, which will be the biggest and most satisfying improvement. With the national teams, we've got Ace and Sarah there, so they're well taken care of, and I believe in them, and they will both do well going forward. Associates, as I see the gaps between associates and full members, well, especially the higher associates, should I say, seems to be closing that little gap. So hopefully, maybe in the future, you'll see a few of those guys becoming full members, if possible. I don't know if it's going to happen, if it's on the cards for any of them. But I see the gap between them closing, which is nice. So associate cricket growing at the end of the day.
Yes, definitely. They're very true there. I couldn't agree more. And thanks for your predictions into the future there, looking into the crystal ball, Ace and Paulo, and seeing how the future will play out for Portugal cricket and associate cricket. Good to hear your thoughts on that, and let's see what happens in the future going forward. Ace and Paulo, thank you for joining me today for this Associate Cricket Series episode to discuss all things Portugal cricket. I've enjoyed it immensely, and I've learned so much, and I'm sure everyone watching and listening to this episode has learned so much about cricket in Portugal and obviously the good work that you're both doing in terms of, growing and developing the sport, and obviously the hard work that you're putting in to achieve that. So it's been very interesting hearing your perspectives on that and other things. And I'm sure everyone would appreciate that listening to today's episode. Now, Ace and Paulo, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to help out, if they want to, think about playing cricket in Portugal and all that stuff, where can they do that? Where can they do that if they want to access those particular inquiries?
I guess the one-stop shop right now is cricketportugal.com. Jump on there, and there's loads of information on there from our national teams, from our local teams, how to contact each and every member of the board, how to send us a message if you want to book a tour. There's tons of information on there, so that'll be the one-shot stop. And otherwise, reach out to us via social media, so Instagram, YouTube channel, Facebook. We've got almost 15 to 20,000 followers on there, subscribers on there, so we've got a good social media presence. So any of those channels be the best way to go.
Yeah, definitely. We will leave links to those in the description of this episode so people can check out those various social media links if they want to learn more about cricket in Portugal, which Ace and Paulo will be very happy to accommodate that. Before we go, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. So the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you, Ace and Paulo, for joining me today to discuss all things Portugal cricket. I hope all of you watching or listening to this Associate Cricket Series episode learned a lot about cricket in Portugal from Ace and Paulo. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.